Hey guys, it's Mark with the Daily Hustle Show, and today we're going to be discussing the recent daily sales tip, which is when your ethical and moral code is beginning to become challenged, we have to reel it back in, realize why it's being challenged, and then try to solve it from there. Your ethical and moral code, everyone has their own, but typically it derives from when you first, grew up, okay? How you were raised, the things that you saw around you and how that was perceived in your eyes. That's your ethical and moral code. Some people swear a lot and they don't care who they're in front of, they just swear. Okay. I mean, I'll have my moments as well, but whenever there's older people around or parents, grandparents, we're not swearing. Okay, that's just a thing we just do not do. And that goes towards your ethical and moral codes as well. When you're talking to somebody on the other side of the table, the other side of the laptop, the other side of the phone, it does not have to be business related either, by the way. This could also very well be a regular conversation with your significant other, friend, or family member. Verbal challenges, okay? So you're going to challenge them, okay? So when your ethical and moral code has been challenged, you're now challenging them, okay, with your ethical and moral codes verbally. That would be swearing at them, yelling at them, raising their voice, and also the very, very most common, stretching the truth, okay? If I keep this example very simple, everyone's going to understand it. Let's say, your friend, family member, spouse, whatever, let's say they want to go out to a specific restaurant. You don't want to go there. You can sit there and say to them and challenge your own code. You can say to them, no, that place is closed. That place is terrible. You've never been there. You also don't know if it's closed. What are you lying for? You're lying because you want to go somewhere else and you don't know how to just say, listen, I'd rather not go there. So now your ethical and moral code has been challenged. And essentially you're challenging it on yourself. Okay, and then that's not going to allow that conversation to go anywhere positive, right? So if you're sitting in front of a client, right, and now more on the business side of it, if you begin to lie, stretch that truth a little bit to that client, just because you're now transitioning from the problem solution side and now you're going to the deal closing side. We all know I'm not a huge fan of that term, but it's true. Once you realize that you're going to start transitioning from being a problem solver to a deal closer, you will start to see your ethical and moral code be challenged. Now, this is not good. Okay, this is terrible. If you are doing this, if you are starting to lie to your client, prospect, right, and you're doing this for benefit and gain for you and you only, that's a problem. Okay, that is where you have to reel it back in. Understand this is not the route that I want to take. This is not going to get me where I want to go. Will it lead to some sales, so to speak? Yes, it will. With certain people, yes, it will. However, if you focus on being more of a problem solver, the handful of people that would have moved forward with you because you're trying to be a deal closer will also move forward with you as a problem solver and then some. Okay? So when we're talking about that, how does that come up? Well, it's very simple. In a lot of B2C, business to customer sales, and I've used this many times before, car sales, windows, roofing, siding, HVAC, real estate, right? In that level of sales, there's a lot of sense of urgency that's needed. I mean, if you listen to any sales guru online and different levels of social media, they'll all tell you create urgency, right? However, do not create urgency by lying. Do not create urgency by fabricating the truth because you're trying to gain something for yourself. Now, some people will say, well, no, it's not just for me. I'm trying to provide them this phone. And I'm telling them if they just get it done and not wait any longer, we're going to be good to go. They'll maybe save a couple $100 and we're good, right? We're good to go. Well, yes, but what if that person has their own inner process? Okay, and moving right now on a decision is just not their process. And you're trying to persuade them, right? Like we talked about before. Persuasion and a conversation are two different things. Sales is a conversation, not a persuasion. Okay, so if you feel as if you're testing your own moral and ethical code by persuading a client to do something right now or sooner rather than they would be because they're not very comfortable with that, if you find yourself doing this, you're testing your own ethical and moral code, okay? Now, in doing so, that's a sense of urgency, right? Like, well, if we do it right now, well, is this phone going away tomorrow? Is this phone not going to be available tomorrow, next week, next month, next year? Well, no, it probably will be. Okay, so I can wait. Do you see how the sense of urgency with that whole do it right now or do it in the next 3 hours, whatever, which happens a lot in those sales industries that I just mentioned. If you consider that, if a consumer like myself who has sales training and knows how to respond, if someone like myself comes forward and says, so you're telling me that car will be off the lot? You're telling me this window won't be here? You're telling me that house won't be there? Housing, you might be like, well, no, it won't be. Okay, well, we're not talking about waiting 2-3 weeks in the housing market. We're talking about we need to put an offer in like right now. Different industry, they understand, you know what? There'll be other ones, right? Especially for me, I'm like, there'll be other ones, right? You're telling me that this car will be gone? That's fine, because I can find that car anywhere else. There's so many different avenues on social media nowadays and so many different avenues online that I can essentially get the exact vehicle I want delivered to my house. I don't even need to go out of my house anymore. And they'll come and pick my old car up. All they want is some detailed pictures and videos so they give me a fair trade-in value. That's it, right? So somebody like me knows that. However, not all of your consumers are as educated as that, and that's okay. Remember, your job is to educate the person, okay? You cannot just provide solutions without understanding their problem. And then you have to educate them on their problem and how your solution solves that. Okay, so creating a sense of urgency, if you're trying to do that by persuading a client or a customer or prospect or, like I said, a family member or a friend, if you're now persuading them, it is testing your ethical and moral code. Okay, and that's not what we want to do. Now, if you want a direct example of how you can create a sense of urgency in those industries, okay, it's very, very simple. You just ask this question. When would you like this done? Okay, or the car. When would you like to physically drive away with this vehicle? Well, I'm thinking of within the next couple of weeks. Okay, is it okay if I tell you some reality here? And they'll say, okay, this car may not be here in the next couple of weeks. That's okay, because we can always get one from a different dealership, or you can always essentially go online and order one and have it sent to your house, and you can do everything that way. But you're going to be responsible for all the paperwork, and typically, consumers do not know what to send in, what not to send in, what boxes need to be checked off. So that's why we're here. So if you really like this car, are you okay risking that? Because I can show you other ones as well. I can show you other colors, other models, other trims, right? I just want to make sure you're okay with it so we can move on from it. Because I want to make sure that we're not staying too close to this car, because if you want to wait a couple of weeks, it's not going to be here. But I also do not want to take it away from, the future people that walk in this dealership, unless you like it enough to put a deposit down on it. So you see all that I just said? It took me about a minute to say. But I'm not creating any false expectations, right? I'm not fabricating the truth. I'm not persuading them. I'm giving them information. Never once did I say, you got to do this right now or it's going to be gone. I said, is it okay to give you some reality? Is it okay to give you some information about this car? And then you also create rapport with them by telling them you could essentially do this on your own, but this is what I see in my industry, that consumers usually do not know what to send, what not to send, what boxes to check off, right? That's why we're here. If you're okay with moving on from this vehicle, I'm cool with that too. I can show you other models, other colors, other trims, other makes, everything. I can also get vehicles sent over here. But if you're comfortable just kind of walking away from this, that's fine. I would like to kind of move away from it so people do not feel like we're moving on this car. I want to give other people a fair opportunity. Do you see how I'm not lying to them? I'm just giving them information. I'm giving them knowledge. I'm giving them the truth. That is sense of urgency. I can guarantee you some of you that are listening to this video heard how I did that, and your anxiety started to kind of boil a little bit. You're like, okay, if I really want that car, I got to figure this out now. Blah, blah. I'm telling you, if you really want it, it's going to be gone. But are you okay with that? Yes, I am. Okay, well, let's look at another vehicle. I'm not trying to push them, right? If it had to do with the other B2C, with windows and roofing and siding and plumbing and stuff like that, right? It's the same exact thing. If a consumer says, I need some time, perfectly fine. These windows are always going to be here. They always will. The only thing that we're testing is just the availability of them from the manufacturer and the availability of my install crew. That's really it. So if we could go back, when did you want this done again? Remember with the car sales, I said, when do you want the car? Drive away with it. They said within 2 weeks. When do you want this done again? Well, I mean, I'd like it done as soon as possible. And then you go into your deeper level questioning, as we discussed before. But what does that really look like? When you say as soon as possible, you talk about like, I want this, signed, agreed upon, and moved on today. Are we talking next week, next month? By the end of 2023, what does as soon as possible look like, right? And that goes into your deeper level questions. Let's say they say something like, as soon as possible, I mean, as soon as you can get in here. Some sales reps will be like, cha-ching, right? They're like, I got this deal, we're good to go. Me? Because I've had that. I've had clients tell me that. Okay, and I was training other sales reps at the time. They can attest to the same information I'm about to tell you. Whenever I would get that response, I'd say, okay, look, knowing that we really need to make a choice here today, let's look at all the options, because the most expensive may not be what you need, okay? Let's remove the fact that this needs to get done right now, and let's kind of go back to where we both have a clear head and understand these are the solutions that I'm going to provide for you today. And I want you to choose the option that best fits you. Just understand that every option I give you is going to be a perfect solution for you. It just depends on what you're looking to spend and what's comfortable for you guys. Do you see what I'm saying? That creates a sense of urgency as well. It's an indirect sense of urgency. It's me also creating rapport, creating a level of trust, letting them understand, look, I'm not here to sell you the most expensive thing. I'm here to provide you solutions for your problem, okay? And when doing that, my moral and ethical code was never challenged because all I did was give them information. Go back to the question. Remember I said this question right here? It's the same one I use with cars. When do you want it done? When do you want to drive away with that car? And the example I just used with well, technically it's all levels of B2C, but the one I just gave you about, well, when do you really want it done? Well, the only thing that will determine getting it done very quickly is, I don't know if I'm going to have my install crew that quickly, or I don't know if I'm going to be able to have the manufacturer get everything over to me. So that's the only thing that can sway the install itself, or the as soon as possible. I'm giving them legitimate information. Now, let's say you have a surplus of products in a warehouse. Let's say your boss told you, look, we got to get rid of these windows. Type 1, I don't know, I'm making this up right now. Type 1 windows. We have so many of them. Give them 10% off. We got to move them out of the warehouse. If you tell a client, look, we're limited. We only got like 1 or 2 sets left. If we don't do this right now, we're going to lose it. We're going to have to go from this option, which is 10 grand, whatever, and go to the $18,000. We don't have much time. Do you see how that's a lie? Because you have a surplus of them? Even though your boss will tell you, create a sense of urgency, that's not how to do it. By lying to them. Because now you're testing your own ethical and moral code. That is not good. That is not right. Can't do that to people. And you can kind of see how I get worked up, because I was in that world at one point, and that was not my character. So I made sure to never do that, whether I was yelled at or not. I made sure that I didn't do that. And I was the most successful sales rep in that company. Okay? The people that I trained them the exact same way. Okay? There's a way to create sense of urgency. And it's not by lying and testing your own ethical and moral code. It's by telling them the truth, giving them legitimate knowledge. Okay? So if we go back to that example of there's a surplus of type 1 windows, right? Type 1 siding or roofing, heating systems, whatever. There's a surplus of them, meaning there's a lot of them. We got to get them out of here. So offer them 10% off so we can just get these things out of here and move this product. There's no need to lie and say there's only 1 left. There's no need to do that. Tell them the truth. Look, I got a whole bunch of these. I do. The only thing that's going to hinder our availability is when the installers can actually get to the house and do it. So when we're making decisions on a project like this, we do want to consider that. Do not worry about the actual product itself. We have them. It's just getting them installed. I can have my crew drop it off tomorrow, but they might not be in here for a month to actually install it, because that is true. Okay, it's true. Now, if the install crew's just sitting around twiddling their thumbs like this, like, I guess, am I going home today? Am I working today? What's going on today, right? Then do not lie to them. Tell them the truth. This is what I can offer you. Okay, these are the solutions that I have. This is readily available with an install crew pretty much on call, ready to go. As we move up the line towards the more expensive options, these ones are a little bit for delivery and install as well. So you're looking at probably a couple of months before we can get here, but this one we can be here relatively quick. Now some people listening will say, well then they can just wait, can't they? Essentially, yes, but if you're giving them enough knowledge and enough trust, the rapport has been so strong and well built throughout your conversation, they're going to be so happy that you're being honest with them and giving them legitimate information and knowledge. It's never, I'm gonna tell you, I've done this a while. It'll never come up. They won't say, well, now that you said that, I'll wait. It never happens, ever, ever. Because I did tell them the only thing that's gonna hinder getting this done, you said as soon as we can, is the install itself. Yes, I have some guys that are on site, ready to go. They're on call. They're good. The only thing is, I don't know where it's going to be next week. So if this is something that we really want to do, and you did say as soon as you can do it, this is kind of as soon as we can do it. Because that is true. If you have a surplus of materials and your install crews are just twiddling thumbs, looking around, and you tell them, look, I don't know when we can do it. Okay, essentially you could say, well, what if everybody sells all these windows and now we have 10 jobs that have to go in? Can that be pushed out? Can the on-call install crew be pushed out? Yes. But if your boss is telling you we got to move this, we have to discount it and move it, there's people twiddling their thumbs, what are the chances of that actually happening? What are the chances that everyone's going to start selling these windows? Very low. Just be honest with them, okay? You want your clients to understand what you're trying to provide for them as a solution. And at the same time, my ethical and moral code is never, ever challenged because I'm just giving them legitimate, realistic expectations and knowledge, professional knowledge, okay? If I sit there and say, no, listen, this is the one you want right here, and look, if you don't do it right now, we could be months out. Really? Because your boss literally just texted you 2 hours ago and said, guys, we have people in the warehouse twiddling their thumbs. Do you see how your ethical and moral code, you're doing it, is being challenged? Just because you just want to close a deal, you're not really so excited, so to speak, and driven and motivated to solve somebody's problem. You're just driven to close a deal and then move on to the next one. And most likely you're going to do the same thing to the next one. It doesn't work, not in 2023. Okay, so again, to wrap this up, you have to understand the difference of your ethical and moral code and when it's being challenged. And if it is being challenged, you do have to kind of go back to when there was no challenge. Try to reconvene with your client or prospect or significant other or family member, whoever you're talking to. Try to figure out where it went wrong and went awry. And then you want to reel it back in, get them back to a point where they're happy, to a point where we can continue moving forward. You do not ever, ever want your ethical and moral code to be challenged. Guys, this is Mark with the Daily Hustle Show. Please like and subscribe on YouTube. Same thing on Instagram. Same thing on TikTok. We're on all social media platforms. We release a new podcast typically every other week at this point, just because we're getting a lot of feedback from social media, so we've been focusing on that. We do have multiple recordings that we're releasing. One was just released today. Get on Spotify, Apple Music. They're all on there. The Daily Hustle Show. If you guys have any questions, just comment on the bottom. We'll see you on the next show.